It's June 24th, and the strange side of history awaits. Today, we have a powerless airliner gliding towards disaster, a deadly weather phenomenon no one could see, and a final survivor of a species draws its last breath. Let's begin. On June 24th, 1982, British Airways Flight 009 was cruising above Indonesia when something impossible began to happen in the dark. The Boeing 747 was carrying 263 people at 37,000 feet. The aircraft had entered a silent cloud of volcanic ash from the erupting Mount Galungi. The ash did not appear on weather radar, and it gave the crew no warning. Then, engines began to fail. One stopped, then another, then the third, and the fourth. In minutes, one of the largest passenger jets in the world became a powerless glider over the ocean. Inside the cabin, passengers saw strange flashes of light crawling across the wings. Smoke drifted through the aircraft and the windows by microscopic volcanic glass. Then, Captain Eric Moody made one of the calmest announcements in aviation history. He told his passengers there was a small problem. All 4 engines had stopped. For nearly 15 minutes, the giant jet descended through the darkness, falling more than 20,000 feet towards mountains and the Indian Ocean below. But as the plane dropped out of the ash cloud, the engines cooled. The melted volcanic glass hardened, cracked, and blew free. One by one, the crew managed to restart the engines, but the nightmare was not over. The cockpit windshield had been scraped almost opaque. The pilots could barely see forward, guided mostly by their instruments. They brought the damaged 747 safely to the ground, and all 263 people survived. It's amazing to think how calm the captain was in such a dire circumstance. On June 24th, 1975, Eastern Airlines Flight 66 was descending towards New York's JFK Airport when the sky turned against it. The Boeing 727 was carrying 124 people through heavy rain and a thunderstorm. The runway was close and the landing lights were ahead. To the pilots, they were almost home. But hiding inside the storm was something aviation barely understood at the time: a microburst. It was not lightning, it was not mechanical, it was a sudden column of air crashing down from the storm, powerful enough to shove the aircraft towards the ground. As Flight 66 made its final approach, the invisible force hit. The plane was pushed downward, and then almost instantly, the wind shifted behind it, stealing away the lift it needed to stay in the air. The crew fought the controls, but the plane was sinking too fast. Moments before the runway, Flight 66 struck the approach light towers and crashed short of JFK. 113 people were killed, and only 11 survived. Meteorologist Dr. Ted Fujita studied the wreckage and the storm, and it helped reveal the terrifying culprit, the microburst. Because of Flight 66, airports and aircraft would eventually gain a better wind-to-shear warning system, Doppler radio, and new pilot training. Sometimes the deadliest danger in the sky is completely invisible. On June 24th, 2012, a caretaker at the Galapagos National Park walked into an enclosure and found the end of a bloodline. His name was Lonesome George. He was a giant tortoise from the Pinta Island, and for decades, scientists believed he was the last known survivor of his kind. His species had endured for millions of years. It had crossed ages of volcanic islands, shifting climates, and isolation, but it couldn't survive humans. In the 1800s, whalers and sailors took giant tortoises for meat and oil. Later, invasive goats destroyed the fragile plants George's kind depended on. But by the time it was discovered in 1971, the Pinta Islands had already gone quiet. George was moved to the Charles Darwin Research Center. Conservationists tried again and again to save his lineage. They paired him with closely related female tortoises, waiting for eggs and hoped for one living hatchling, but none came. For 40 years, George became a living ghost of evolution, not extinct, but alone. At roughly 100 years old, he died of natural causes, and then with him, the Pinta Island tortoises was declared extinct. Lonesome George was not just rare, he was the final page of a story millions of years old. Another day, another strange bite from history. Like, comment, and subscribe. Your next eerie dose is just a day away.